All right. So, leading online business meetings in English. So we all know, for some of you, you have already facilitated meetings in French. So it's actually very easy for you. Meetings are sometimes a struggle, but that can even be more challenging if you are tasked to facilitate or lead an online meeting or face-to-face meeting in English. So this particular lesson is going to focus on must-have phrases, sentences, and useful language that you can use to facilitate online meetings in English. All right. So again, this lesson is suitable for those who has an English level, perhaps from B2 to C2. All right. Okay. So and as what Raphael mentioned, we're going to break this down into just five for now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because it can take 6 hours for an entire lesson. This 30-minute training will give a structure and a framework. So first, these are different phrases or scenarios that may arise, and it may require you to use effective phrases to ensure smooth and clear communication. All right. Some of them are already obvious for you, and for others, you may have already been using them. So you will see familiar and simple phrases, some sort of like what you can add to your toolbox. All right. And as well as some common idiomatic expressions used by native English speakers. So again, choose whatever works best for you. So it's you can start with the simple ones in the beginning, and as you feel more comfortable, you could use or move to the more sophisticated ones. Right? Practice makes perfect. So let's begin. All right. So the first one we have just a quick survey, and I'd like everyone's participation. So type your answers on the chat box. What problems can you have, or probably you had already, in facilitating business meetings in English? So anticipated problems that you have already encountered, or maybe, you're afraid it would come. So type it on the chat box. All right. So I would need Raphael's help because I cannot see everything on the chat box.
Okay. I'll check the chat box. Please use the chat to answer the question.
All right. Yes. So probably I'll type again. So there you go. You have it on the screen. What problems can you have in facilitating or leading business meetings in English? We're going to wait for some answers. All right, there. Lack of vocabulary, the tendency to always use the same expressions. Yes. Figures. I'm assuming these are numbers, right?
Yeah.
Vocabulary.
Keep everyone follow the rules.
Oh yep. Yeah, that's the most difficult one, I think. Making sure everyone follows the rules. All right. Any other? So
difficulties to understand English idioms.
All right. Mm-hmm. Difficulties to understand. So mostly it's vocabulary, same expression. So yeah, I think for everyone it's the variety of expressions. All right, and that's actually what we're going to talk about. Okay. So we'll try to condense it into 30 minutes. So keep there's another one that we have.
Keep the audience attentive. When the flow is not continued, it could be boring for them.
Yeah. Oh yes, exactly. It's another problem there. All right, so everybody keep your answers, keep them coming. Keep them coming. Right?
Maybe we can go on. Yeah.
Okay, let's go on. So we'll keep this in mind. So let me just all right, here. So for all of your answers, these are like a puzzle to you. Okay, so how do we deal with it? What do we say? How do we make sure everything flows smoothly? All right. So the first part is, of course, when you welcome participants and do some introduction. But of course, before you welcome and introduce yourselves, you have to make sure that you get everyone's attention. All right. If it's a big group, no need to wait for everyone to settle. Start on time, unless, of course, it's necessary to wait. All right. Let me move to how do we get everyone's attention? You know, when everybody's already talking and you don't know how to begin. So what do you now say as to make sure they look at you? So here are some example sentences that you would like to use. I just want to clarify again. Raphael, are you able to see the PowerPoint?
Yes,
All right,
perfect.
clear. All right, there. So we have here three. If I'll just practice so you could hear how to say it. Now you would notice that two sentences are questions. And most of the time we were taught that if it's a question, it's a rising intonation. However, you can give emphasis by changing the intonation at the end. So intonation should go down, not up. When you want to make sure that you capture their attention, a falling intonation demonstrates certainty and a subtle authority. So instead of, I'll use the second one as an example. Usually people would ask, could I have your attention, please? So that's a showing some, you're not sure. But if your intonation goes down, could I have your attention, please? There you go. Good afternoon, everyone. Shall we begin? Right? So make sure if you want to capture their attention and exercise some subtle authority, intonation should go down. So you could practice it. Now you can combine any of these sentences. All right. And we also have some more on the next page that we have. Since everyone is here, let's get started. Okay. I'd like to thank everyone for coming today. Okay, there you go. Now, after you have gotten their attention, it's time to welcome them and do some introductions. Right, so let's go how we can introduce ourselves. This is the formula, KISS. Yeah, right? Keep it short and simple and straightforward. Remember to keep introductions simple. So here are two simple formula that would work well, just the basic ones in any meeting. All right, so for formal and professional introductions, of course, your name, your role, and if you're from another organization. So for example, hi everyone, my name is Mary, and I'm a language facilitator at Proformacion. And then you try to close it with a positive statement. So we have here some examples that we have. I'm glad to join you today. I'm thrilled to be part of your group. It's good to meet all of you today. It's nice to meet everyone. All right. So, hi everyone. My name's Mary. I'm a language facilitator at Proformacion. It's nice to meet everyone. And then that's a clue now that the next person will begin. All right. Just to give some variety instead of hi and hello. How are you? All right. Let's go to the next page. Okay, so this is like a formal introduction. Now, if you are a facilitator and there are new members, do a round of introductions before you discuss the purpose of the meeting. If introductions are necessary, here are a few phrases to use. So, there are some new faces in today's meeting. So let's do a quick round of introductions. Before we go into the agenda, let's go around and introduce ourselves quickly. I know most of you, but I see some unfamiliar faces. So before we start, let's do a quick round of introduction. Raphael, could you please start? All right, and then it goes on and on. All right. So if you have if you have any questions, just type it on the chat box. Right? Okay, so let's move forward. So, and if everything is done, you can now go to the next part of providing a brief review of the agenda and the purpose of the meeting. So, how do you now state the objectives? So we have actually here 4 choices. Just choose your favorite and see what works well with you. So for example, welcome everyone. Our goal today is to. Then you enumerate the objectives. Thank you, everyone. We have a few items to discuss today. The first, the second, and so on. Another one would be, we're here to discuss, or you can also say we're here today. And welcome, everyone. These are the items that we want to discuss. And if you're showing a PowerPoint presentation, then you can just flash it on the screen. All right? Okay, so let's have another audience participation. All right, so how about you? Of the 4 choices that we have, what would you most likely use? So I'd like you to write it down or write down the number on the chat box. And if you have some other phrases that you use, kindly share it with us. All right, so just choose a number, 1, 2, 3, 4. Which of this you would most likely use? Number 2 from Paul. Number 2 as well from Elodie. Number 1, number 3. All right, keep it coming. And if you have something that you use, do share it with us. All right. Okay, we have number 2. Which is our winner, Raphael? 1, 2, or 3, or 4?
I would say number 2.
Number 2. There you go.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So
Thank you,
again,
everyone.
thank you, everyone. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. So again, this is just to give you variety of your common expressions. All right. So let's move forward. One moment. Let me just go to the next page. All right. And sometimes, if these are weekly meetings, you see the same people all the time. If you want to get straight to the point, since, again, it's a regular meeting or you're already familiar with everyone, you can actually just say 4 or 3 informal phrases here. For example, are we good to go? So are we good to go there, meaning everybody's ready to start. Are you all here? So it means that you can immediately start the meeting because it's the same people who are attending. And once they join the meeting or you see it's time to start, just simply say, are we good to go? All right. And you can also say, let's kick off the meeting with a brief review of the last meeting. So you might have a summary of what was agreed on in the previous meeting. Another one is one of my favorite. I say this, let's get the ball rolling. Since we only have an hour to cover all 3 items on the agenda. So this is what you can say for informal phrases. So for informal discussions. All right. Okay. Okay. Again, in the middle part of the meeting, as a facilitator or chair of the meeting, time management is also key to efficient meetings. Although sometimes, most of the time we can't avoid issues that may arise. So when you mediate discussions, these are some example phrases that you could use, especially, when somebody interrupts. All right. So there you go. So we have 2. And, when do you use this? When you notice that one person is already dominating the conversation or talking a lot, which happens a lot. I'm sure you can relate. You can manage this by saying, again, watch out for the intonation. May I interrupt? That's a good point. May we hear from the others? Thank you for that. I know you have a lot of ideas, but I think, for example, I think Raphael has something to say, right? And especially for online meetings, if you see that somebody else is, clicking on the hand raise icon, you can say something like this. Or I see that Raphael is raising the hand icon. Do you have something to add? I think somebody would like to comment on this. And then before you pass to someone else the opportunity to speak, you can remind them to be brief. So for example, I think Raphael would like to comment on this, but may I remind everyone to be brief because we don't have much time. Right? So you can mix it all up. Right? Now, in between conversations, you can facilitate more comments, ideas, and opinions by asking some questions to encourage participation, right? So, keep in mind that as a facilitator, you guide the attendees along. So encourage participation by leading them into questions. Questions will elicit responses and get them talking because sometimes they just need a little push. Okay, so what are some questions that you could ask aside from, do you have any question? All right, so let me go to the next page. Okay, so we have here, I'd like to hand it over to, let's say the name is Patricia. I'd like to hand it over to Patricia, who can share her thoughts on, let's say, the proposal. What does everyone think about last meeting's discussion? Patricia, would you like to offer any information on this? What are your thoughts about the proposal? I'd like to get your input on, and then you have to say whatever the discussion was previously. So you have there some phrasal verbs that we have. Hand over. Hand over simply means to let somebody else speak. All right. Okay, moving forward. Now, what happens if there are some expressions or discussions were not clear or questions? All right. So as a facilitator, you can get help from nonverbal cues if you think that the participants were not able to understand. If it's an international meeting, they may be all using English, but their level is different. So some clarification question you could ask would be, oh, sorry, could you go through that again? I didn't quite understand it. So instead of saying, can you please repeat? So these are other varieties that you could use. And if it's the last part, could you repeat the last part, please? And somebody's not speaking loud enough. So avoid saying, please speak louder. The phrasal verb that we use there is, could you speak up, please, so everyone can hear? And another one would be, could you clarify once more for everyone? So our phrasal verb here, go through, you just quickly repeat, you give more details, and speak up. So it means speak louder. All right? All good? Okay. So let me just move to the next one. So these are, again, just this diplomatic and polite ways to ask for clarification. Okay. Now comes the most common challenge. When conversations get sidetracked or it's off track. So it's not unusual to get off track in discussion, especially, attendees are active in the discussion. Everyone wants to give their ideas and the topic is interesting. So as a result, it can take the conversation away from the main topic, all right, and interrupt the primary purpose of the meeting. So when you need to get the conversation back on the right track, here are effective ways to do that diplomatically and politely. All right. So the first one would be this. We need to move on so that we have enough time to meet our goal for this meeting. That's a good point. However, we'll need to follow up on it after the meeting. That's a very valuable input, but we need to finish this topic. Can we follow up after the meeting? That is a valid point, but can we focus on the original topic? All right. So again, Just choose one, whatever works best for you. All right. And I also have here on the next part additional ones. Perhaps we can add that topic to the agenda for our next meeting. Because unfortunately, we only have a few minutes left. So we have to move on to the next item. Let's park this issue for now. We need to move forward. So park an issue here or park a question simply means you have to wait. Yeah, you will keep it on hold. All right. Okay. So, and finally, and just give me a moment here. All right. So this is the last part, ending a meeting. It may seem repetitive to summarize what has been discussed. However, this is not only expected, it also ensures that the attendees leaves the meeting with clarity. So if you're the facilitator or the chair of the meeting, you can end the meeting with a high note by summarizing points that have been covered. So not just a goodbye, thank you for coming. So these are some suggestions that you could use. All right, here are some sentence starters. We're getting close to our time, so let's wrap it up. There. So wrap it up or wrap up is a common expression to say, to conclude, or to put an end. Another one would be any final thoughts before we close the meeting? Now, this is different from asking if they have any more questions. Final thoughts are just reminders, just reminders that perhaps some may have forgotten. All right. If there are no issues to discuss, I'd like to finish with. Okay, and then you can enumerate or summarize key points, decisions, or steps. All right. And the simplest one to quickly recap or just to recap. Example, just to recap, I'd like to point out the following areas. Yada da, yada da, yada da. All right. And finally, once the meeting has come to its conclusion, well, of course, just thank everyone for attending. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you everyone for attending. Have a good day. All right. And then wait for everyone to leave. All right. Okay, so let me just end my presentation on a high note by showing a visual representation of effective meetings. All right, and with that, perhaps we're ready to open the floor for some questions. All right, so again, type your questions on the chat box. Take it from there, Raphael.
Sure. Please, again, please ask your question through the chat. We have a few minutes left, so do not hesitate.
So while we are waiting for some questions there.
Sure. Yes. You can scan this QR code.
The QR code, yes.
Yeah. To give us your evaluation forms. Well, people are very satisfied. No questions, though.
Really? I'm sure.
May I
right.
have a question? If I have, can I
All
ask a
right.
question?
Of
It's a
course.
tricky one, I guess. But what would be the difference between a business meeting for English people and American US people, for instance? Are there any differences, or is it still very familiar for everyone?
Oh, okay. The difference is actually with the choice of language that they have. For the English people or the British people, the choice of words that they have could sometimes be a little bit different. All right. So let's say
Okay.
from the spelling up to the even the pronunciation. So
Okay.
that's just the difference. But basically, they're the same.
Okay, just one point. So yeah, if you're going to go further, especially on this topic, business meetings, of course you have to speak. I mean, this lesson again, this training is a we cannot exchange because you're 26 attendees. Do not hesitate to use your CPF, le compte personnel de formation, as you may know, if you're a French citizen and French employee. We have trainings available. Mario's layout, one of them, it's a training of 20 hours with the TOEIC at the end. You have 20 hours of face-to-face training via Teams. So it's a one-to-one training with Marie Rose or another training. And you can also speak about of course, business meetings and other topics. Okay, it's 980 euros price for 20 hours plus the TOEIC and an e-learning included. So again, you can subscribe to it if you want. I put the link also on the chat box. Any questions?
Any question about the lesson? If you have questions about the lesson, well, you can send us a message. If it's for the enrollment, then I think once you click on the link, there is a chat there, or you can send an email to anyone.
Well, I guess it was very clear. Thanks a lot.
All
very
right.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you learned for 30 minutes. Thank you for coming.
Yes, and thank you, Marius, for your speech, and it was very clear. I love the intonation part and the kiss part, of course.
Oh yes, the intonation makes a difference. So everybody, if you wanna know more about how intonation can make a difference, do see us.
Okay, thanks a lot again, and bye bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.
And you will receive the replay within 2 days. Okay. Bye bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.